In a world where praise often feels performative, there are rare moments of sincerity that cut through the noise. And this time, it came from none other than Coldplay's frontman, Chris Martin, whose voice shook not stadiums, but hearts. Following Jin BTS's historic win at the Global Healing Artist Awards, Martin broke his silence in a live interview that has since gone viral across continents. His words were simple but staggering. "Jin's award is a blessing to me. I'm the proud one here." The world paused. This wasn't a typical music industry compliment. It was a confession, an emotional tribute from one of the most respected rock musicians of the modern era to a South Korean vocalist who, once thought of merely as the visual of BTS, has now become a global symbol of healing, resilience, and emotional truth. Chris Martin and Jin share more than a collaborative history. They share a bond that fans have described as spiritually artistic. Their iconic joint performance of The Astronaut, a song written by Coldplay and gifted to Jin, was more than a handoff. It was a passing of light, a moment of generational harmony, and now, in hindsight, perhaps a foreshadowing of something far deeper. In the interview aired via BBC Sounds Artists on Artists, Chris was asked what he thought about Jin winning the Global Healing Artist Award for his contributions to emotional wellness through music. Martin didn't hesitate. "I've worked with thousands of musicians. But Jin, he listens. He breathes through the music. He's not trying to be anything. He just is." That kind of honesty is rare. Seeing him get that award, it didn't feel like he won. It felt like we all did. The Coldplay frontman, who is no stranger to accolades and stadium sellouts, said that being a small part of Jin's solo journey is something he considers a gift from the universe. He even revealed that during Coldplay's South America tour, he kept Jin's EP Echo on repeat in his hotel room. There's something about his voice. It's not trained to perfection, it's trained to feel. "That's what moved me the first time I heard Epiphany. I told my manager, this guy, he'll save people." And now he's getting awards for exactly that. You tell me that's not divine. The fandom, already emotional from the intense campaign that led to Jin's award, erupted. Within minutes, hashtags like #ChrisMartinForJin, #TheProudOneIsChris, and #JinHealingArtist began trending in over 40 countries. Videos of their past interactions resurfaced. The hug at the astronaut stage, the handwritten notes exchanged backstage, the subtle nods of mutual admiration that many had once overlooked. But it didn't stop there. Chris reportedly sent Jin a personal letter after the award ceremony. According to a staff member from the Global Healing Artist Awards, Jin was seen holding a folded note before he walked onto the stage. That note, sources claim, was from Martin. Its contents? Unknown. But fans are already romanticizing it as the letter of light, a final thread of connection between two souls who see music not as an industry, but as a responsibility. For Jin, this moment comes with thunderous vindication. After months of rumors, suppression, and allegations that HYBE underpromoted his solo work, the award itself was already powerful. But Chris Martin's open validation? That made it unshakable. More than just recognition, it became confirmation. Jin has never asked for glory. His interviews remain soft-spoken. His social media, minimal. His gestures? Always for others. And now, an international icon has said what millions have whispered in their hearts. The world doesn't just need stars. It needs someone like Jin. And if Chris Martin, Grammy winner, rock royalty, stadium conqueror, can step back and say, "I'm the proud one," then what excuse does the industry have to keep looking the other way? Because maybe, just maybe, this isn't Jin's moment in the spotlight. Maybe he is the spotlight, and the world is finally learning to bask in his warmth. When Coldplay handed over The Astronaut to Jin in late 2022, fans expected a beautiful song. What they didn't expect was a cultural moment, a collaboration that would transcend genres, languages, and time. Now, nearly 3 years later, with Jin crowned as a global healing artist and Chris Martin publicly proclaiming that Jin's win was a blessing to him, the world is beginning to understand what The Astronaut truly meant. IT was never just a song. It was a message wrapped in melody, a cosmic handshake between two artists from different worlds who found a shared purpose, healing through music. Newly uncovered behind-the-scenes footage from Coldplay's archives. Chris can be seen sitting beside Jin in a dimly lit studio, guitars between them, papers scattered on the floor. At one point, Jin pauses, eyes closed, and softly hums a melody. Chris, watching silently, leans in and says, That's the sound of someone leaving Earth but remembering who they love." And that's exactly what The Astronaut became. A musical metaphor for Jin's military enlistment, yes, but also for his personal journey as an artist stepping away from BTS's orbit and venturing into the unknown with nothing but sincerity and courage in his hands. For Chris Martin, it wasn't just a feature. It was a handoff of emotional responsibility. He said it best in a past interview. When we gave Jin that song, we weren't giving him a track, we were giving him a vessel. And he filled it with something only he could. Fast forward to 2025, that vessel has carried millions. Fans across the world still recount how the astronaut got them through the loneliness of Jin's enlistment, through their own mental health struggles, or even through grief. The song became a lifeline, not only for armies, but for anyone who had ever felt far from home and longed for a voice to guide them back. In a recent podcast episode of Artists in Orbit, Chris expanded on what he sees now as a spiritual partnership with Jin. The beauty of Jin isn't just in his voice, it's in his stillness. You don't meet many people in this industry who know how to hold silence with as much power as they hold a note. He's a different frequency. That frequency is now being recognized globally. The astronaut has been inducted into the Global Songs of Impact archive at the United Nations, cited in a psychological wellness study at Stanford, and featured in music therapy programs across Japan, the Philippines, and Brazil. Yet, what remains most powerful is how humble Jin continues to be about it all. When asked about the astronaut after receiving his Global Healing Artist Award, Jin simply said, "I was the astronaut, but Chris was the one who gave me the rocket. I'm still flying because of that." And Chris's response, "He doesn't even realize. He's the one who gave me the fuel." Seeing him receive that award, it was like watching your younger brother finally be seen for the magic you always knew was there. I cried. I truly did. In a world where fame often separates artists into silos of ego and competition, Jin and Chris Martin showed the world another way, one of respect, kindness, quiet strength, and emotional generosity. Their story is no longer just about a Coldplay x BTS collaboration. It's about what happens when an Englishman hands a melody to a Korean man and the whole world listens, not because it was viral, but because it was real. And in that reality, a legacy was born. Not just a hit song, not just an award, but a bridge between continents, between hearts, between two artists who dared to feel more than the industry allowed. And now, with Chris Martin's public declaration of pride, the message is sealed in history. "Jin's award is a blessing to me," he said, and to the millions who heard the astronaut for the first time, Jin was the blessing all along. IT began with a song. It blossomed into brotherhood. And now, it's clear, what Jin and Chris Martin built was never just professional. It was deeply personal. In a heart-stopping leak confirmed by a senior staffer at Big Hit's internal archive, select portions of private letters exchanged between Seokjin and Chris Martin have surfaced online, and fans across the globe are struggling to hold back their tears. These weren't marketing emails. These weren't lyrics in progress. They were handwritten, raw, and intimate. Proof that behind the stages, behind the cameras, behind the towering fame, stood two men quietly holding each other up during their most vulnerable moments. The first known letter came from Chris in October 2022, shortly after recording The Astronaut. "Dear Jin, we wrote this song with the stars in mind. But after meeting you, I realize you are the star. Your energy is quiet but enormous. When you sing, the room doesn't cheer. It stops. That's power. You don't need to fly far. You're already among the constellations. With love, Chris." Jin, shy and humble as always, reportedly didn't know how to respond at first. But a month later, before his final rehearsal in Argentina with Coldplay, he handed Chris a folded note. That note now rests in a sealed case in Chris's studio in London. The words, "You gave me a galaxy when I was afraid of the dark. I don't know what I can give back, but I'll carry this light forever. Thank you for treating me not like a project, but like a person." Jin, those lines alone triggered an emotional tsunami when revealed in a recent BBC music documentary featuring behind-the-scenes stories from Coldplay's tour. When asked why he kept Jin's note on display, Chris said, "Because I've received Grammys, platinum records, and magazine covers. But no one ever told me I gave them light until him."